Hello, it's the Crap Goth. My name is Pixie and welcome to my channel of randomness where you never know what you're going to get. Now, I will say really quickly that this is going to be a negative experience of the NHS. I'm still in a lot of pain and I'm having problems breathing, so please do bear with me if you want to find out what all this is about. Just bear with me, I'm not doing too well right now. Hey, well, my ring light decides to sort itself out. Hi. Okay, so I don't normally look this bad. Usually I do look like shit, but this is like on an extra level. Obviously I'm in my pyjamas, I'm still in a lot of pain and I'm quite breathless, so I might have to even end up stopping and starting this video. It'll be continuous for you guys, but you might see it bitting and bobbing. So basically I came out of hospital not long past 3 o'clock this morning. That's just like the end of the story, the saga, that one. But basically what has happened, so I basically collapsed with horrendous chest pain out of absolutely nowhere. I wasn't doing anything physical, I'd not pulled a muscle, I'd not lifted anything heavy, and all the stuff that they run through with you at the time. I was with Ostara. We'd filmed a video which wasn't a particularly over emotional video, so well, basically we filmed this video and it all went really well, and we sat down having a chat, and out of nowhere it felt as though someone had got my heart and I'd literally, they started squeezing, and it was a pain like I have never felt anything like it ever in my whole life. I mean, I've had panic attack pain, I've broken bone pain, I've bumped into stuff, I've strained muscles, I've had pleurisy, also it was nothing like that, nothing at all. It literally felt as though someone had got their hand inside my chest, was holding onto my heart and was squeezing, and initially, with every breath that I took, the squeezing would get more intense. So I knew that this wasn't something that was like a regular thing. It wasn't anxiety related, it was nothing to do with mental health, which is what the first thing that everyone goes to with me especially. And it was nothing like that. So I wrote it out for about half an hour because I don't like to bother people. And then it got to the point where I'm like, something's wrong. So I rang, I actually contacted one of my husband's friends who's a nurse and said to her, like, I'm so sorry to bother you, but this is what's happening. She said ring 999. I actually rang 111. So those people who aren't in the UK, that's a medical service which you can call to ask for like advice, and then they will send you an ambulance if you need one. They tell you the relevant things to do if you don't, and all that kind of stuff. They're really good. So I rang 111 and they were like, we're sending an ambulance. So I was like, okay, not a problem. And I was home alone with my daughter because my husband was at a festival, and I didn't actually tell him what was going on because I didn't want to worry him. And with everything going on in the past, with losing my, my little boy and things, I didn't want to tell him. I didn't want him to come back from his festival if it was nothing, so I didn't tell him. So my friend Cherry, bless her, I'd messaged her because she lives local, and her husband came over. So hi, Mr. Cherry. He came over and looked after Ostara while the ambulance crew were here until Cherry and her children could get here because they were actually out. And then they took Ostara back to their house for a sleepover, so I knew that she was well looked after. My pets were all looked after and everything was fine there. So basically, initially, a huge, massive thank you to the ambulance crews every single time, 3 times. 3 different ambulance crews, 3 different ambulances over several days. They were beyond phenomenal. Now, if any of them are watching this video, an absolutely huge thank you. You are incredible at your jobs. The ambulance crews were amazing with me. They could see I was in absolute agony. They were brilliant. They were non-judgmental because obviously my forms flag up as me being a mental health patient, which I am. And they didn't treat me as one. And they were amazing with me, and they helped me with my pain relief. They were very kind. They carried my bags. They were very patient with me. They were lovely, absolutely incredible. Now the state of the NHS, how the flipping heck people work in it, I don't know. And this is what this video is going to be about. It's mostly negative, to be honest with you. It really is. Now, this is not me being ungrateful, because I know for a fact that England is lucky to have an NHS. I know that medical insurance possibly wouldn't cover treatments that, I'll say treatment, I don't think I've had any treatments like that necessarily, but that medical insurance probably wouldn't cover a lot of people. And I know that I'm very lucky, so I'm not being an anti-NHS like person who is very ungrateful at all. I'm incredibly grateful for every single person involved who actually helped me in this process. But let me tell you, this process was fucking horrible. And not one that I think people should experience, and it needs to be said. It really, not that my video is going to make a massive impact, but if you guys can relate, please do comment down below, because the stuff that I've been through and the things that I've experienced have really been nothing short of, I think, cruelty on some parts, and other parts just being disregarded, and it's awful. And yeah, basically that's what this video is about. So I'm going to very slowly get up like a granny and pause the video so I can take some breaths. And my husband's made me a cup of coffee, non-caffeinated, I will add. And then I'm going to get back onto it, so just bear with me, okay? Me and my little granny movements, because it actually hurts to move, so bear with me. Right, okay, so first of all, I'm going to try and keep this fairly short, like about half an hour to 40 minutes, if that. Okay, so really putting things in a nutshell. Collapsed with intense chest pain. Got taken into hospital by a fantastic ambulance crew who were amazing. Now, we went in and it was just, I was put into a bay. So when you get into A&E in the UK, you are, the ambulance crew go in, they hand over your notes, they tell everything that's been going on. You get wheeled in a wheelchair or on a bed. I think at this point I actually walked in because I didn't want to go on a bed, and I know that I was only comfortable sitting up in a chair. So I sat on the chair in the ambulance. I'm pretty certain the first time I walked in myself. They walked with me, that I had ambulance crews both sides of me, and they walked in with me very slowly. And then I was put onto a bed. I mean, I might have remembered that wrong, but I think that's what happened, because I was on gas and air, which was Entonox, because that helped with the pain. And I went in and I was put into a bay, and obviously a doctor comes out and assesses you and all this kind of stuff. And the doctor was pissed off, basically. So the A&E department was busy. It wasn't rammed like the second time, which I'll tell you about, but it was busy. And they kind of like go in and they ask you all the questions. Now, bear in mind, at this point I could barely breathe. I was in so much pain. I was in agony. I was in absolute agony. It hurt to breathe. It hurt to talk. The pain was at this point constant, like it hadn't gone away, it wasn't going away. So they cannulated me, and I've still actually got all my, this is from like last night, because I was discharged ridiculous o'clock in the morning, covered in bruises and everything. But so they cannulated me, which I don't mind, being that I'm not scared of needles, so luckily I don't like them, but I had cannulas in. And they went through everything, like, you know, like what's been going on, what's been happening, why are you here, that kind of thing. And I have been told by multiple people that that this could be what's called broken heart syndrome. Now, if you don't know what broken heart syndrome is, please go and Google it. It takes far too long to explain on this video. It'll make it ridiculously long. But it's a very real thing. It's not a mental health thing. It's a very physical thing, and you can actually die from it. So let's just let you know. Like, worst case scenario, that is the worst case scenario. So I went in and I said, look, I don't know what's happening. Obviously, I know I'm in absolute agony. I mentioned the broken heart syndrome to me, and the doctor practically laughed in my face. And she said, and why would you think that you have this? Was pretty much that, and that was the way she said it. And I was like, maybe because I had to watch my child die in my arms, and I've had no help, anything. So then, of course, it comes down to mental health. So it's like, you know, and they have to ask all the regular questions, like, have you pulled yourself, like, as in, like, have you pulled a muscle, and all that kind of stuff. So basically, I went through A&E. And they didn't know what was wrong. So initially I think it was being treated as a potential cardiac arrest, which is what I thought was happening as well. So I was given pain relief, I was given intravenous morphine. So first of all, they tried to give me a lot of drugs that I cannot have. So I cannot have aspirin, I cannot have penicillin. I'm allergic to penicillin. I'm aspirin sensitive, and I can't have a lot of the drugs because of my asthma. I've got uncontrolled asthma, and that kind of can bring on an asthma attack, so I don't have them. Codeine, which is the one thing they go to, makes me extremely sick, so I couldn't have that either. So I was pretty limited on what drugs I could have. So the only thing that actually worked for me at the time was intravenous morphine, which they did actually give me eventually, and that actually did help to take the pain off a lot, which obviously made my breathing a bit more relaxed, so it wasn't so painful, which was brilliant. But they ran through a lot of tests, basically said to me, we don't really know what's wrong with you, we're going to send you home. So I got sent home. My husband, bless him, every single time has driven to the hospital in the city to pick me up, every time, like without hesitation. Doesn't matter what time of day it is, he's been there to pick me up, and he's come and got me. So So we did that, and then but I will say at this point I got home. How did I even get home? I don't even know how I got. Oh, I got a taxi home the first time. I was trying to think then, because thinking that every time he was away at a festival, I got a taxi home. So actually, the first time I got home was via a taxi, and that was because it was ridiculously early in the morning. About 7 o'clock in the morning, the A&E staff decided they didn't know what to do with me. Like, they didn't know what it was. They didn't know it was. They couldn't say it wasn't a heart attack. They didn't know what it was. So they said basically, you can go. And I was like, I'm not being funny, but I am a patient. I am a mental health patient. Never on my own. I have carers with me 24/7. I don't leave the house on my own. I have absolutely no money. I came in via ambulance. My husband's away at a festival, and I'm on my own. Like, what am I supposed to do? So I did ask them if they could help me with hospital transport. That is a thing. They said no. They said I have to find my own way home, and it was 7 o'clock in the morning. So I messaged my friend Cherry. That's who helped me. Cherry, bless her, who got my little girl. And she actually booked from her end, she booked me a taxi and bank transferred me the money into my bank account so I could pay for this taxi. And the taxi company was Amber Taxis, and the guy who drove me was lovely. He came into the hospital and said, I'm here to pick Pixie up. He walked with me to the car. He brought the car around actually closer to the hospital because he couldn't walk. He carried my bags for me, and he offered to walk me to my front door and everything. He was lovely. So Cherry and Amber Taxis, thank you so much. Cherry has been amazing. The second time around, I collapsed again. And that wasn't a lot of fun either. And that was with exactly the same thing. I was at home, intense pain, could not breathe, 111, ambulance. I'm going to granny stop again. 2 secs. Okay, so the second time around, my ring light's back again. Second time around, okay, again, intense pain. This was only like, I had no, maybe like a day and a half later of that. 111, they sent an ambulance, the crews came out, and I was like, and at this point it was worse than the first time. The pain was horrendous. I had actually let my husband know what was going on, so when I got home, I let him know I'd been in hospital. I said, if you come back, I'll fall out with you. You stay at that festival, because we've been through so much as a family. Didn't want him to miss out. At this point, I was still alive, so I was like, don't you dare come home. If you come home, I will fall out with you. So I made him stay there, but obviously I had to keep him updated. Second time around, again, intense chest pain, could not breathe. I was on nebulizers and everything, like my own nebulizer, which I've actually got here. It hurts to move, so bear with me. I bought my own nebulizer, so I didn't have to have the ambulance out every time I have an asthma attack, which is quite frequent. So yeah, basically went in again, but this time was fucking carnage. It was absolutely ridiculous. So went in, and the ambulance crews, for a start, the ambulance crew were incredible, by the way. They were lovely. There were two alternative girls, like covered in tattoos, and they were absolutely brilliant. And they were great at keeping me calm, and they were lovely. They couldn't find my veins, so they gave me intramuscular injection of morphine to help me with my pain. But the ambulance, I think the ambulance was stood for about an hour and a half to 2 hours in the forecourt of the ambulance station, because the hospital was that busy. There must have been, I don't know, 19, 20 ambulances, all with patients in, all waiting to actually go into the hospital, which was insane in itself. Once we got into the hospital, it was just carnage. There were beds everywhere. Every single bay was full. All the bays were full. Then in front of the bays were loads of other beds as well. And then in front of those were beds. There was ambulance staff queuing up literally along the whole, the length of the A&E department, which is quite big, waiting to kind of like, obviously hand over their patients and stuff. So they couldn't go anywhere. There was no ambulances on the road because we could hear them talking. They were saying that basically 999 calls were coming in, and there were no ambulances available at all. Like, it was absolute carnage. So you can tell the nurses were stressed. You could tell that they were annoyed and they were pissed off, and they just wanted to get people in and into the right departments or discharged if they didn't need it, whatever. Like, they were unfriendly. There was one lady, actually, she was heavily pregnant, bless her, one nurse that who came over to see me, and she was heavily pregnant, due to finish work. She was actually really sweet. She was lovely. The doctor who saw me was less so. She was quite horrible to me, and very, very abrupt. But again, I presume they're extremely stressed. But from a patient point of view, if you go in with possible cardiac arrest or something's going on, then you're scared. You need reassurance from these medical people who are trained, and they were just horrible. They were shouting. There was very, very clearly walking across the A&E department stating they just want to get rid of all of us, and they just want us all gone. And they're very, very vocal about it, which I thought was extremely unprofessional. Even if you are pissed off, I mean, I've I've worked in like in pubs and things like that as waitresses, and if you're gonna have a moan about your customers, you do it in the back where they can't hear you, but they were very, very blatant out front. There's lots of people from elderly to young people to obviously people like me. I'm in my mid-40s, so. But basically what happened there was I was then treated for a possible blood clot. I don't know if it was on my heart, my lungs, I don't know. So I was taken into a bay eventually. It was a long process because there was a lot of people in there. Taken into a bay, and I was given so many fucking needles, I thought, as a pincushion. So I was being given, obviously I was having bloods taken from both arms. My veins weren't great in one arm. I'm fully tattooed. Like, so you can, it hurts to lift my arm. We're fully tattooed, so you can see that it's not that easy to actually locate. I was told some ambulances they use like a UV blue light to try and find your veins, which they didn't have on board, so they couldn't do that. So eventually I was cannulated, and then I started being treated for a blood clot, a possible blood clot. So I was having ridiculous amounts of drugs, like loads and loads and loads of tablets at one time. Now I have an issue with tablets anyway. I struggle to take them. That's mental health. But I took all these drugs as told. I did everything as I was told to do it. They came and injected me in my stomach that was really fucking painful. That was not nice at all. So I had an injection in my stomach, and basically it was just absolute carnage. There was just people rushing in, rushing out. There was blood pressure checks and all that kind of stuff. So I can't fault them for like running the tests and stuff. But everything was inconclusive. At this point, they still didn't know I'd not had a heart attack, which is what it felt like. I was in absolute agony. I was crying. I was absolutely, I had tears rolling down my face. I couldn't breathe lying down. It hurts to breathe now. I was sitting up. I couldn't talk like I am now. This is only because I've been home and I've rested for hours in bed. So basically, it was just an absolute one of those things of where like we don't know what to do with you. It was an absolute nightmare. So I ended up being moved from A&E, and then what was happened then? And then I was sent home again. I was sent home again after all these tests were done. I was still in agony. I was crying my eyes out. I couldn't breathe. I was in so much pain. They didn't know what was wrong with me. So my husband came and got me again. I was sent home for a second time. The third time was my worst experience yet. And that was literally happened yesterday morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, yesterday morning. The whole process for the third one was absolutely awful. And that's the one which I can tell you the most about, because that's the one I remember the most. And it's horrendous. Honestly, it's just awful. Like, it's just, I'm not sitting here bitching about the NHS because we're lucky to have it. The ambulance crews are amazing. For the most side, the doctors and the nurses were lovely. It was the doctors that seemed to have the issue. But I know they're under a lot of stress, but the next one was just horrendous. And this is the one I want to highlight the most because I think it's fucking bang out of order. Granny stand. Hang on. I need to like a remote control or something for this. Right, okay, so basically, this is the last one that has happened. So 2 days ago, I ended up, again, same thing, same pain, same breathlessness, could not breathe, had my nebulizer. At this point now, like my husband was home from his festival, and I was just like, I can't do this anymore. I got to the point where I thought, okay, I've just lost my little boy. I thought I was calm. By the way, in all of this, I was not panicking. I was very calm. I was not hyperventilating, which is one of the things the nurses came back and told me. She said they took my blood gases, which proved that I was hyperventilating. I'd been on a phone call with a nurse, like a phone call with a proper nurse, who was a friend with, and she said, I can hear you're not hyperventilating, so that's not true. But obviously, unfortunately, when you're a mental health patient, that tends to come before anything else. And I'm in a working diagnosis of schizophrenia at the moment. I have anxiety and all that kind of stuff, which obviously flags up on my notes. So that's the first thing that anyone goes to. This third one was the worst, by far the worst experience ever. So again, I went in, exactly the same thing. Horrendous chest pains. Hadn't stopped. Like, this chest pain hadn't stopped, by the way. It was relieved by drugs. It was relieved by morphine, intravenous morphine. But it hadn't gone away. It hadn't stopped the pain. The pain was there continuously. I couldn't eat. I couldn't drink. I couldn't sit up. I couldn't lie down. I couldn't. Everything hurt. And it was a pain like I have never experienced in my whole fucking entire life. And I'm not being, I am not a pussy when it comes to pain. I really am. I mean, you know, I'm one of the people who will probably sit there in a corner and probably bleed out because I don't want to inconvenience somebody. But basically what happened this one was, I had another ambulance crew come out. They were amazing. We waited in the ambulance for, I think it was about an hour and a half. They were really, really lovely. Again, really calm with me, really nice people. Got me in. The doctor was a shithead, basically. Sorry, doctor, whoever you were, but you were really, really not very friendly at all. Really couldn't give a shit, just wanted everybody out of your way. Again, I understand in a way because it was incredibly busy. It was stupidly busy. So I went through the A&E process again. Again, was just like, they didn't know what was wrong with me. So they knew that I struggled to be on my own as well, but my husband needed to be at home with my daughter. There really wasn't any room for visitors. My oldest daughter, Ebony, messaged me saying, Mum, I'll come and be with you, but there literally wasn't any room for relatives. Like, there was no room for patients, let alone anybody else. They were butting the beds up against each other. So they had all the bays were full. I was at this point on a trolley, and they were pushing the trolleys. Sorry, it hurts me with my arm. They were pushing the trolleys one up against the other. So we were literally bar to bar with people who were being sick, who were having trouble breathing, we were all butted up together, like one against the other. Like, there was no room for people to walk in between. And they were just getting you, they weren't even telling you they were moving you, they just get you, and all of a sudden there'd be a massive jolt as they take the brakes off and just slam you into another trolley, basically. It was just a nightmare. And then the worst experience for me was when I was placed into, I don't even know what it was. It was like a different waiting area. It was this tiny little cut-out section. It was like this. The sofa I'm sat on now, it was probably about twice the width. There was enough room for 12 chairs, and that was going from down this way, across the back, and back up again. So yeah, I think it was like probably like 6 chairs, and then 3 there and 3 there. It was just like, and everyone was crammed in together. They were metal chairs. They were really uncomfortable. They were very short, and it was awful. And we were all crammed in together. Now, I was sat literally in the middle of people, and there's no room like between these chairs. You're literally crammed up shoulder to shoulder with people. And there was a man who was next to me who was just vomiting his guts up, like it was just spraying everywhere. There was vomit everywhere. He smelled very strongly of alcohol, so I presume he'd been drinking when he'd been in a fight. I don't know, this is presumptuous of me to say this, but he was covered in scratches, bruises, blood, vomiting everywhere. There was a lady to my right who I ended up talking to, and she was really lovely. Turns out that she'd actually been in a car accident. Now, obviously, I'm not going to disclose names. I don't know names anyway. She'd been in a car accident previously, a couple of days. She'd gone to Derby Hospital, which is where I went to. And they'd sent her home. And she was in absolute agony. She couldn't cope. And it turns out they eventually gave her a CT scan. And because she'd gone back in absolute agony, like I'd gone back in agony, it turns out she'd got multiple broken and fractured ribs. And it was just like, and she was left there, she got no pain relief. She was left sat on chairs and she was in a lot of pain, bless her. And then they were making a walk from department to department, like to sit. They had this cubicle opposite us that had one chair in it. Like, it was like a big bay that could have had a bed in it and everything, but it had one chair. And they were getting you to go over, like this magic curtain would just block out all the noise. So you could hear everything that was being said. There was no privacy whatsoever. They were coming into this little tiny, and I mean tiny, little box room. It wasn't even a room. It didn't have any doors on it. It was just an open space with chairs. They were coming in and discussing medical. They were asking for your date of birth, your address, asking who you were, why you were there. They were doing your observations in this little room. Patients were having to get up off their chairs to allow room for the nurse to come in to give you blood pressure cuffs and all this. Like, it was absolute fucking ridiculous. Like, it was so ridiculous. I ended up being in there for almost 17 hours, and I was in so much pain. I was crying. I got no phone signal, so I couldn't even message my husband really. Like, every now and then the signal would come back for like a minute, so I was trying to message just to let him know what was going on, but there was no phone signal. They didn't offer us water, and there was nothing. There was actually water stations dotted around the hospital, but you had to be able to walk there, which I couldn't. So luckily my husband had packed me a bottle of water in my bag and some packets of biscuits. I couldn't eat because of my pain, but I was grateful for the sips of water that I could take in between being able to not be able to breathe. So basically we ended up sitting for 17 hours in this horrendous little tiny place. And then eventually my husband actually rang the ward and said, look, my wife suffers from severe mental health issues. This is the one time, like, I was really not coping. I was like, I managed to get a message through to him saying, I can't do this, Spanky, I can't. And my headset was at that point, if I died, I was going to be with my little boy. If I survived, I'd be with my husband and my girls. So at that point, I really didn't give a shit either way, whether I died or lived. Like, I wasn't in panic mode. I was just in horrendous pain and I just wanted the pain to stop, and nobody was helping with that. So 17 hours sat in this little fucking waiting room, which was tiny, with people vomiting around me and being in agony and being in as much pain as I was and not being treated at all. My husband rang up and they actually moved me into this room, which I was incredibly grateful because it was like a bit of space. And they told my husband, don't worry, we're going to get her a bed. Because I'd not been to sleep for, I don't know, 2 days. I'd been sat up in a chair constantly. They said, okay, we're going to get him a space. We're going to get her a bed. Don't worry, we're going to look after her. And they didn't get me a bed. I had a chair, which I was very grateful for. And they took me to the toilet because I needed the toilet. So they walked me to the toilets and showed me where they were. I walked back again. And one of the nurses, so there were 2 nurses with me at that point who were coming in. One of the nurses wanted to give me obs because my heart rate was through the roof. Like, I couldn't breathe. It felt like I was having a heart attack. At that point, I was like, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. And the other nurse who was with her was kind of like, no, she's being moved to MAU, which is the medical assessment unit. She doesn't need all this. She's fine. She's fine. So there was a very conflicting between the 2 nurses there. They were very nice, I will say, but they were like, the communication skills between departments and between nurses and between medical staff is a fucking shit. That's the one thing I will say. They don't keep you updated with what's going on. So the next thing I know is a porter arrives to me, which is a guy who wheels you around in a wheelchair. He took my bags and he took me to the medical assessment unit. I was shown into this room. 3 lovely elderly ladies were in there. They all said hi to me. They were really nice. The staff seemed absolutely lovely. This little, I'm probably saying it wrong, but she looked like a little Filipino nurse. She was, oh my gosh, she was adorable. She was so nice, so friendly. They were really nice. They're like, don't worry, darling, don't worry. Everything's going to be okay. They offered me a bed. I got a bed and everything, but I wanted to sit in a chair because I couldn't lie back. So I sat in a hospital chair. My husband came over, brought me he brought me my dressing gown, my toothbrush, and some things that I needed, like my clothes and things, and also some more wool because American Nana had gifted me some wool in a previous unboxing video, which I do a lot of unboxing videos on this channel. So I sat and I started to crochet. I've not got it here, I'll show you. I started to crochet a doll blanket for Ostara's favourite teddy bear, which is called Long Cat, which is just a long cat, a long stuffed cat that she's had since she was little. So I started to crochet her a blanket, and I found like breathing whilst I was stitching, whilst I was doing the crochet, I'd be like, so for every breath I could do a stitch and I'd stop because I didn't have to move this arm very well because I crochet with this hand. So, and I was in a lot of pain and they could see I was in absolute agony. So they brought me something called tramadol. They wanted to try me on tramadol to take away the pain. I'm a bit iffy around meds, I don't know, but I tried tramadol and it worked. It really did. It was amazing. It took away the majority of the pain, enough for me to be able to sit, walk to the toilet, which is something that on my own, which I did, which was amazing. So after 17 hours at this point, I was absolutely fucking exhausted. So I got sent through to the MAU unit. They seemed lovely, but within like an hour or so, all 3 of the people who were in the MA unit were being transferred out to different places. One lady had had a cardiac arrest who was next to me, an older lady. She was so nice, and her daughter came over to talk to me, and we were talking through the symptoms, and she said that every single symptom that her mum had was exactly matched to what I had, like literally down to the T, everything. She said to me, have they done this enzyme test? She said the only way they could find out that her mum had had a heart attack was by having a blood test, and then they repeated it about 2 to 3 hours later, this same enzyme test, and that is what detected the heart attack. But every single one of my symptoms matched perfectly with this lady who had had this heart attack. So we didn't know at this point I hadn't had one. No one has still told me that I haven't had a heart attack. So at this point I was really, really tired and it was getting late, so I was in a lot of pain. And then 3 new people came in and they needed more attention than I did. So I sat very quietly through intense pain because the pain had come back and it was really, really bad. And 3 new people came in, so I drew the curtains around me very carefully, gave them the privacy. I could hear the nurses were busy, I didn't want to bother them. They gave me a nurse's call button and said to call them anytime I needed help, but I didn't do it because I didn't want to bother anybody. And then when I heard that everything had died down, I then pressed the nurse call buzzer and said, I'm in a lot of pain, please can I have some help? And they said to me, don't worry darling, we haven't forgotten you, we've just been busy, we'll come back. They never came back. It was like an hour or so and they hadn't come back. And I was in a lot of pain. So I asked again, please can I have some pain relief? And basically they said to me, what you need to do is you need to go to bed. So my symptoms at that point was I felt like my heart rate was going too quick. They did come out and do a blood pressure monitor and my oxygen levels. They said, oh no, that's fine, don't worry, you're absolutely fine. All you need to do is go to sleep, you need to go to bed. So they pulled back my bed covers and made me get in bed. I was like, but I can't sleep because I'm in so much pain. I'm in like literally fucking agony. And they said, no, you just need to go to sleep. So I wasn't given any pain relief at all. This was early hours of the morning. I managed to finally lay back enough. I got my cardigan behind my head as extra support to sit me up a bit more. I think I drifted off maybe about 1:30 in the morning. By about 2 o'clock in the morning, I had a doctor literally shake me to wake me up. I'd only just fallen asleep. I'd not slept in days. He said to me, he just woke me up with like all these facts, like, okay, so we don't think you've had a heart attack. Don't think you've had a heart attack. Don't think it's a blood clot and all this kind of stuff. But at this point, I was due a cardiac scan on Tuesday. It's now Sunday, by the way. I don't even know what date it is. It's like, I don't know, whatever it is. It's my son's birthday is in literally a few days' time, less than a week's time, and his birthday's on the 24th of August. So it's the Sunday before that. I don't even know what date it is right now. And he woke me up at a ridiculous o'clock in the morning and said to me, right, all these reasons, like I'd just woken up. He was like, right, it's not a heart attack. It's not this. We don't think it's this. We don't think it's this. Do you want to stay until morning? And have your husband pick you up until the morning, or do you want to stay on and wait for the cardiac scan? A big part of me wanted to say I want to stay in hospital until I have my cardiac scan, so I know. Because apparently they can't tell if you've had a heart attack. They can't tell if you've got broken heart syndrome until you have this special cardiac scan, which shows inflammation of the left side of your chest. They don't know until they give you this specialised scan, which I haven't fucking had. I hadn't had any heart scans. I haven't seen a cardiologist. I haven't had anything like that. But basically, I said, I'll wait until morning. I'll ring my husband. He'll come and get me. I thought they meant until, like, literally go back to bed, go back to sleep and wait until the morning. But they didn't. I'm sorry, that video ran over a bit longer than I wanted to. So basically, in a nutshell, they came out at ridiculous o'clock in the morning, told me all these facts in my face, the fact that they don't think I've had a heart attack, they don't think I've had a blood clot, I've been treated for this, and all this kind of stuff, and that basically my husband can come and get me in the morning and I'll just come back in for the cardiac scan. I was like, right, fair enough, not a problem. And then about 10 minutes later, a nurse came over and said to me, okay, you need to leave now. I was like, what the fuck? It's like 2:30 in the morning, 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, I'm still in my pyjamas. I've only just gone to sleep. And she's like, no, you need to leave. A porter was already there with a wheelchair waiting to move me. And I was like, can I please just get out of my pyjamas? And I said, look, am I going to a waiting area? And they said, yes. So the last waiting area I was in was obviously a very public one with people throwing their guts up. People from, I didn't want to be sat in my Barbie pyjamas. I wanted to put some clothes on and have some fucking dignity. So they allowed me time, just enough time to go to get changed out of my pyjamas, which was really painful because I had problems lifting up my left arm above anything above this height. So getting changed was a challenge and hurt. And then they just basically scooped all my stuff up into bags and chucked it on the back of this wheelchair. And I hadn't even left the room when they were stripping my bed and washing it all down. So I presume they needed my bed for somebody else, which I don't have an issue with. I don't want to take up space if somebody else needs it. But I was messaging my husband and saying to him, basically, they're kicking me out at 3 o'clock. Now, I don't know if not the porter saw my text message over my shoulder, or I said it out loud, I can't remember. But I was like, why are they kicking me out at 3? And he was quite shitty with me. It was like, they're not kicking you out, they're just moving you wards. I was like, but I've just been told I'm going to a waiting area. He's like, yes, you are. I was like, so basically I'm being kicked out at 3 o'clock on a Sunday morning with no transport, no money, no nothing. My husband and my daughter are going to be asleep. Like, what am I going to do? What they failed to tell me was, which would have been better, was I was being taken to a different ward that actually had beds and had bedrooms, and it's like a holding facility. So basically, if you're removed from a ward at the early hours of the morning, you are taken down to this like discharge centre, which actually has little tiny beds, like cubicles, little tiny like rooms that has a bed, and they were lovely. As soon as I went on there, the first thing they said is, sweetie, would you like a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, anything to eat? Do you want any blankets? And I was like, I thought I was going home. I've already rung my husband. He's on his way. And they're like, no, you can stay here. We've got a bed for you here. You can go back to sleep. At this point, I was in agony, so I couldn't have gone to sleep anyway. But they were so bloody lovely. And they showed me to the bathroom because I needed the toilet. And by this time, John's like, I'm on my way. I'm coming for you. It's fine. Don't worry. He'd already got Astara out of bed. They hadn't relayed the information to me, that actual fact. I was kicked out, because my husband thought exactly what's happened before. I'm being kicked out onto the street, basically, because A&E was full the second time. When the taxi came for me, there was no spaces for me to sit. I just come out, I was still in pain. I would have had to go and sit outside the hospital on the floor or on a barrier or something, because there was no space at all. And that's what my husband thought was going to happen at 3 o'clock on a Sunday morning, when I've got nothing. I didn't even have a coat with me. So he just got Astara out of bed and he drove to get me. And he was fucking furious. Like, he was really angry about this. But, like, if they'd have relayed the information to me saying, look, we're going to move you from this ward, but there is another ward downstairs that has a bed for you. You can stay there until morning and ring your husband. I would have done that. I would never have messaged John at 3 o'clock in the morning to get me. And anyway, we got my discharge papers, which they don't normally give you, by the way, at Derby Hospital. You don't normally get discharge papers anymore. I've not got them for the past twice I've been in. But this last place gave me discharge papers. And they'd lied on the forms, and they said that they'd given me anitriptyline. In actual fact, what had happened was they'd given me, I can't remember what I said before, they gave me this tablet that really worked. It was fentanyl, no, not fentanyl, I can't remember. They gave me this tablet basically, which worked really well to take away my pain. But on the form, it said that they'd given me anitriptyline that night, and that they wanted the GP to basically prescribe me anitriptyline. And take paracetamols and things, but they'd said they'd given it to me, which was a lie. They hadn't given it to me. I've never had anitriptyline at hospital before. And they've sent me away with no medicine. It's on a Sunday, so no chemists are open, no GPs are open. I couldn't get anitriptyline for pain. So they've sent me home with nothing. They've also made a massive note on there to say patient is also not taking her recommended two medications. Now, as a mental health patient, I don't actually take anything anyway, but I do take diazepam as and when I need it, which I had in my bag with me. I have all my inhalers with me, which I take. The only thing I haven't been taking is sleeping tablets, because we didn't take them into hospital because I didn't know that I'd be able to sleep. What's the point in taking sleeping tablets in, which I have been prescribed on the days I need it? When I didn't have another bed to sleep in, I was sat in an A&E with people vomiting next to me. How can I take a sleeping tablet? And so I told them, obviously I wasn't on them. They made a really big point of putting patient is not taking recommended medicines. GP needs to look into this. That they've given me this medicine that they hadn't even given me, and just basically removed me from the premises. So here we are right now. It is now Sunday afternoon. I got home at about 4 o'clock in the morning. John put Astara straight to bed. She went to sleep again, bless him. I don't even think he's been to bed because he was so pissed off and stressed. I managed to eventually fall to sleep in my bed upstairs, which John helped me to get upstairs and everything. He helped me to get into bed. I was in so much pain. I had pain relief before I went to bed. And I was propped up with a lot of pillows so I could breathe. And I woke up at 3:15 this afternoon. And it's now 5 o'clock. So I woke up at 3:15. I said to John, I said, I need to make a YouTube video. So this is just highlighting how bad the NHS is, especially whilst I'm still in pain. So sorry that this has been a bit of a dull video, but basically the NHS is fucked, absolutely fucked. The ambulance crews are stretched to capacity. There is no fucking help in A&E at all. You're either treated as like someone who's just basically making it up, especially if you've got mental health issues, or you just kind of just like left to your own devices to suffer for ages until they can get needles in you. I was told that every day I was in hospital, this was only a few hours ago when I was in hospital, that every day I was in hospital I'd need to have injections in my stomach for a blood clot, but then was told I don't have a blood clot. I was told my heart's fine, I've not had a heart attack, but yeah, I've still got to go back on Tuesday for a cardiac scan to make sure I've not had a heart attack, and to also check that I've not got swelling of the heart or anything going on with this possible broken heart syndrome. So if they think that my heart is so okay and that I've not had a blood clot, why only like hours before, I mean we're talking like 3-4 hours before they kicked me out, did I have to be injected into my stomach for a blood clot? Why do I have to go back to hospital on Tuesday afternoon for a special cardiac scan if they're so positive that it's not heart-related. And they've released me basically with no medicine, no pain relief, no advice on what to do, no nothing. They've just said, right, go. And that is it. And I think it's absolutely fucking disgusting. And it's wrong. And there are so many people who are suffering, like I have, and just being left because the NHS is stretched, because they've just had things pulled. There's not enough ambulances on the road. There's not enough help in the A&E departments. And people aren't taken seriously. And that's one of the worst things about it, is not being taken seriously. Just bear with me. So there you go. End of the video, really. It's been a bit of a dull video for me, because normally I'm a lot more animated than this and a lot more like, waving my arms around and being angry, but to be honest with you, I'm too tired. I'm in too much pain. The pain is here in my chest. It's in my shoulder. It's down my arm. I can't lift my arm above. I can get to about there before the pain starts really kicking in. I'm breathless. I've got my nebulizer next to me. I've got my inhalers, which I've taken. I've taken 2 diazepam this morning, which is double the dose I'm supposed to, but I need it. I'm not stupid with medicines, by the way. I don't abuse drugs. I don't smoke. I don't drink. It's nothing like that. I've been sent home with no help whatsoever, apart from come back on Tuesday afternoon for a heart scan, which is what I'm going to have to do. But yeah, massive thank you to the ambulance crews, who were phenomenal. I know they're under a lot of stress and they are amazing at their jobs. Not once did they treat me like I was a mental health patient that was making it up. They gave me the drugs I needed to help me at that point. They stayed with me all the times they possibly could. They didn't leave me on my own. They were absolutely amazing with me. They were brilliant. Predominantly the nurses there are lovely people. Again, stretched to capacity, have ridiculous amounts of people to see. Mostly very friendly. Doctors were the ones that seemed to have the issues. I mean, don't get me wrong, the last doctor I spoke to was very interested in my YouTube channel, because obviously they asked me what I did. And then he was kind of like, I don't know if it was genuine interest or if it was just trying to see if I could breathe enough to be sent home, because I was talking to him. And I presume it was the latter, because he sent me home. I thought it was him that sent me home, but it's actually a different doctor who signed me off to go home, so I don't even know who it was who sent me out. But basically, yeah, the arse doesn't talk to the elbow. There's no fucking communication skills whatsoever in there at all. You're shoved from pillar to post. You're not told what's going on. You're left for absolutely ridiculous amounts of hours in absolute agony with potential cardiac issues and everything else. People left in there with broken bones. Like they say, the lady who I spoke to was really nice. Multiple fractures on her ribs that they just didn't pick up after a nasty car crash that she had. They obviously didn't give her a CT scan at the point of the crash. She got sent home, no pain relief, no nothing, had to come back, and she was sat for hours. At the same time, 17 hours on a hard plastic chair, which is like school chairs, and just left. So yeah, whoever is responsible for funding the NHS needs to pull a finger out their fucking arse and get some funding put back into it. The nurses need to have a lot more help than they are getting. The departments need to talk to one another, and the biggest thing is talk to your bastard patients, because I'm not being funny, I'm sorry about swearing, but like I wasn't given hardly any information about what was happening with me, what was happening at all. I wasn't being reassured, apart from the ambulance crews. I was just being pumped full of drugs, needles in my stomach, needles in my arms, just being fucking tapped on my back, tapped on my chest. My arms were being pulled around even though I was in pain. It was horrible. It was an absolutely horrific, horrible, traumatising, horrendous experience. Most of it was spent with me being in absolute tears. And believe me, like I'm not a hard arse, but I'm also not an absolute wimp either. Like I've got quite a high pain threshold, and I'm happy to wait, and I'm happy to not put pressure on medical staff. But I truly believe that the care I received in there wasn't overly care. It was protocol, and it was just trying to rule things out, which I suppose they have to. But it's shit. It's absolute bullshit. It's horse shit. I've come home now in pain. Not managed to drink anything yet. John's made me a coffee here. Like I said, a weak black decaffeinated coffee. Not managed to eat. If it wasn't for John packing me a bottle of water. So if you're going to go to hospital, take a bottle of water with you. I wouldn't have had anything to drink for 17 odd hours. If you need something, ask. Don't be afraid to ask, because that's the one thing that I feel stupid now for not asking. And when I did ask for pain relief, to be fair, most of the time they ignored me or said they couldn't give it to me, or they needed to wait for tests to be done or whatever. The people who were the fastest to respond with pain relief were the ambulance crews, who were brilliant. I was scared. I was on my own. And yeah, it was a horrible, horrible experience. So am I comfortable calling out an ambulance in the future? Absolutely fucking not. No, I'm definitely not. Going back to the same hospital, which again, I can't prove this at all, but going back to that hospital was traumatic enough. The first ambulance that came out, I think it was the first people that came out, actually gave me an option of going to 3 different hospitals. There was Derby, there was Nottingham, or there was Mansfield. And Nottingham's really far out for me to even get a lift from, even afford a taxi from, so there was no chance. Derby's the closest one to me. It's also the hospital who I believe held a massive responsibility in my son passing away as fast as he did. So going back there was really traumatic for me, because I've not been in since being with KORI, which was really bad. But no, I think the care aspect of the NHS has disappeared, and what is happening now is the nurses are under ridiculous amounts of stress. They want you to get you in and out as fast as possible. I could have had a heart attack, we don't know. I could have a blood clot, we don't know. I was still being treated for blood clots yesterday, literally hours ago. I haven't had a cardiac scan. I've not seen any cardiologist, despite the fact my discharge paper's stating I have. I haven't. And I still need to go for a cardiac scan on Tuesday, so I will know more then. I'll do a little update video, not like a big one. I'll do a little update video on what they found on my cardiac scan. Hopefully it's nothing. Hopefully my heart is not in distress. Hopefully it's not swollen. I'm not going to need surgeries or treatments or beta blockers or anything else. I don't know what this is. I don't know what's caused it. I've got no idea. Neither did the hospital, but I've been discharged anyway. I felt like a burden. I felt like somebody who was just a second-rate citizen who didn't really deserve to be there. I felt like I was just, it made me feel like shit, basically. I felt horrible. I'm not comfortable ever ringing an ambulance again unless it's absolutely necessary for a member of my family, or unless one of my legs have dropped off or something. I wouldn't be comfortable ringing 111 again, because I don't want to get an ambulance. I bought my own nebulizer, so if I have an asthma attack, I can treat myself at home, so I don't have to call them out. The NHS is in trouble. It's shit. It needs help. It's underfunded. It's understaffed, and it takes the piss. So if any of you have had any kind of experience and of anything like this, maybe not cardiac related, but maybe something else you've had in and out of hospital, you feel as though something's gone wrong, you've been treated wrong, or they've been horrible to you, or you feel as though your condition wasn't taken seriously, you've been discharged and something's happened, please do comment down below. Please do let me know, because I'd like to hear your side of the story. I am very grateful for the NHS. I'm very grateful to every person who actually helped me and was nice to me. But there is a huge, huge issue, and it needs to be resolved, because having like 19, 20 ambulances outside, all with patients inside who could potentially die, and some probably did, it's not acceptable. So that's it. I'm signing off now. It's gone 5 o'clock. I don't turn around again because it hurts. I'm in a lot of pain. I'm struggling to breathe. And there's nothing much I can do now. I just have to wait until Tuesday to have my cardiac scan. Can't even go to the cemetery to see KORI properly, because I don't think I'll be able to walk properly. It hurt enough to walk. So yeah, if you've ever any experiences of the NHS, please do comment below. It can be positive, it can be negative. I'm not slagging them off. I'm not being a bitch. I'm being real. This is a real problem, and it's out of order. But I'll keep you updated with what happens with my heart. I'll let you know what's been said. But yeah, that's it really. So just take care of yourselves. If you're going to go into hospital, my advice is take food, take drink, take all your meds with you, obviously. Don't be fobbed off. Don't sit in silence and suffer like I did, because you don't want to be a burden, because that's what they're there for, basically. And if you've got an issue, please do raise it with PALS, which is the Patient Advice Liaison Service, which I think my husband has actually messaged since me being in hospital, because he's really, really angry. So yeah, that's it really. Positive experiences are welcome. Negative experiences are welcome. Any nurses, doctors, professionals who can possibly tell me what they think this is, without diagnosing me obviously, because we don't know. I haven't pulled a muscle. I haven't done anything wrong. Please let me know. Comment down below. I was going to make a podcast, but I thought, fuck it, I'll just make a video, because you can see I'm in a lot of pain still. But yeah, thank you for listening. It's your fucking bell end. Okay, so it just cut off. My video just cut off really quickly. So really quickly, any experiences, positive or negative, comment down below. Please do hit subscribe to this channel if you want random stuff, like I said, unboxing, to soapbox stuff, to stuff that's actually happened to me in real life, to family vlogs. It's all happening on this channel, like random stuff at random times. So please do hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell icon so you know every time a new video goes up. And yeah, stay tuned if you want to find out what happened. But I'm going now because I'm really struggling. So, oh yeah, and on top of all that, I've got oral thrush, which is great. So wonderful, hey? Right, I'm going to go. See you all later, and thank you for listening. Okay, bye-bye.